The crimson sandstorm has finally passed, leaving the dark red planet bathed in the eerie, sparkling light of magnificent purple nebulas shining down on the rugged wasteland. Exploring their treacherous new home, Grog and Rexy take a cautious stroll, their posture still heavily hunched as their plastic bodies slowly adjust to the grueling triple gravity. But this world isn't just made of jagged stone. Bizarre, alien vegetation constructed from dark green and brown plastic pieces begins to sprout from the heavy crimson soil. Ever the diligent scientist, Grog kneels down with his magnifying glass to closely inspect a strange, bright blue plastic mushroom, giving a satisfied nod as he mentally records his findings. Right behind him, a deeply exhausted Rexy lets out a massive yawn, followed immediately by an incredibly loud, echoing rumble from his giant tan belly that shakes his entire glass dome. Dragging his heavy feet through the red dust, the starving T-Rex lazily scans the barren landscape, desperate to find absolutely anything that he can throw into his massive jaws. Suddenly, Rexy's plastic nostrils flare as he catches a whiff of an incredibly potent, irresistibly familiar scent drifting through the thin alien atmosphere. His dotted eyes track across the sharp, dark red stone walls, completely locking onto a shadowy, secluded corner of the canyon. Growing right out of the dark red bedrock is a colossal, tightly closed flower bud, standing just as tall as the mighty dinosaur himself. The massive bud is a striking mix of deep purple and dark green bricks, exhaling a mesmerizing, translucent mist that floats gently around its petals. Peeking out from the tiny cracks between the closed petals are brilliant, flashing beams of trans-neon green light that pulse with an incredibly hypnotic rhythm. Rexy gulps heavily. That radiant, glowing green light looks exactly like the delicious energy crystals he used to snack on back on the cheese moon. Completely hypnotized by the prospect of a galactic snack, Rexy's pupils shrink down to tiny dots, his entire focus absolutely glued to the giant, glowing bud. Forgetting all about the crushing gravity, the giant dinosaur rises up on his tiptoes, awkwardly waddling toward the mysterious plant with stealthy, eager little steps. Completely oblivious to his giant partner wandering off, Grog remains happily hunched over the dirt, deeply engrossed in studying the tiny blue mushroom through his magnifying glass. Rexy tiptoes right up to the towering purple plant, tilting his massive glass dome upward to eagerly sniff at the mesmerizing, glowing mist. As if sensing the massive prey standing right in front of it, the giant flower slowly begins to awaken, its heavy plastic hinge joints clicking as it prepares to open. One by one, the thick purple and green petals peel backward, unfolding with a series of sharp, mechanical snaps. Hidden beneath the beautiful petals is a terrifying, perfect circle of razor-sharp, white plastic teeth, waiting to snap shut on anything foolish enough to come close. But Rexy doesn't even notice the deadly teeth. His eyes are completely transfixed on the incredibly bright, trans-neon green energy core resting right at the bottom of the flower's throat. A single, perfectly round, trans-clear droplet of drool escapes from the corner of Rexy's mouth, sliding slowly down the inside of his glass visor. Licking his lips in eager anticipation, Rexy slowly lowers his colossal head, opening his massive jaws incredibly wide to gulp down the glowing green treasure. Without a single second of hesitation, Rexy plunges his entire head straight into the center of the giant, tooth-filled alien flower. The plant suddenly jolts in shock, absolutely offended that this giant red walking buffet is actually trying to eat it first. Feeling deeply insulted, the carnivorous brick plant immediately triggers its ultimate,
deadly defensive reflex. With the terrifying, lightning-fast speed of a giant bear trap, the monstrous flower violently snaps shut. The circle of razor-sharp white teeth bites down incredibly hard, completely swallowing Rexy's entire head inside its dark purple jaws. The sharp plastic fangs scrape violently against Rexy's trans-clear glass dome, locking his snout in an inescapable vice-like grip. For one long, perfectly still second, Rexy just freezes in absolute, bewildered shock. And then, total, unadulterated panic completely takes over as the giant dinosaur thrashes wildly in every direction.
He tries to desperately yank his head backward, but the stubborn flower refuses to let go, its thick green stem stretching out like a massive, incredibly tense rubber band. Rexy flails his tiny arms, clawing uselessly at the tough purple petals, while letting out a series of high-pitched, muffled screams that no one can hear. Far across the clearing, Grog finally hears the chaotic struggle and lifts his head from his botanical studies. The sight before him is pure comedy. A seemingly headless Tyrannosaurus Rex frantically moonwalking backward, aggressively dragging a violently stretching, very angry giant flower along with him. Grog's dotted eyes bulge in absolute horror. He tosses his magnifying glass into the dirt and breaks into a desperate, heavy sprint to save his foolish friend. Rexy violently shakes his head left and right, repeatedly slamming the giant flower against the red dirt in a desperate attempt to break free. But the teeth remain firmly clamped to his glass dome. The stubborn alien plant absolutely refuses to surrender its massive prize, locking its plastic joints incredibly tight and holding on for dear life. Grog finally slides into the chaotic scene, kicking up a massive cloud of red dust as he assesses the ridiculous situation. He grabs onto the thick green stem of the plant and pulls backward with all his might, turning the struggle into an absurd high-stakes game of cosmic tug-of-war. But the plant is just too strong. Grog loses his grip and tumbles backward, landing flat on his back in the red dirt. Thinking quickly, Grog reaches down to his tool belt and pulls out his trusty, light bluish-gray plastic crowbar. With a heroic leap, Grog grabs onto Rexy's silver neck collar, wedging the sharp end of the crowbar deep between the flower's teeth and Rexy's glass visor. Dangling precariously in the air, Grog uses the brutal 3G gravity to his advantage, throwing his entire body weight onto the crowbar to pry the jaws open. The immense pressure causes the plastic crowbar to bow and warp dangerously, threatening to snap under the extreme tension. The carnivorous plant fights back furiously, its petals vibrating violently as it strains to keep its jaws clamped shut around the dinosaur. Slowly, with a horrible squeaking grind of plastic, the sheer leverage of the crowbar forces the bottom row of teeth to open just a tiny fraction of an inch. Hanging from the crowbar, Grog taps Rexy frantically on the shoulder, signaling for the giant dinosaur to prepare for a massive backward pull. Rexy nods his head enthusiastically, which unfortunately makes the flower nod too, as he digs his powerful hind legs deep into the red dirt for maximum traction. Grog grits his teeth, lets out a silent battle cry, and pushes down on the crowbar with every single ounce of strength he has left in his yellow body. With a massive, incredibly satisfying pop, the giant flower's jaws are completely forced wide open. The sudden release of tension sends Rexy flying wildly backward, tumbling over his own feet and crashing flat on his back, with his legs pointing straight up at the sky. Grog is thrown completely clear of the blast radius, executing a frantic barrel roll across the crimson sand. The violently released flower snaps backward like a whip, slamming its heavy purple head into the ground before its jaws click shut on absolutely nothing. Rexy clumsily rolls over and sits up, gently rubbing his scuffed glass dome, which is now heavily scratched by the plant's razor-sharp teeth. He lets out a massive sigh of relief, wiping the imaginary sweat from his brow and vowing to never, ever try to eat glowing alien foliage again. But across the clearing, the carnivorous plant slowly pushes itself back up, and it is absolutely furious that its dinner just escaped. The giant purple flower shakes violently, aggressively dusting the red sand off its petals like a boxer preparing for round 2. In a truly bizarre and terrifying twist of alien biology, the plant violently uproots itself entirely from the dark red bedrock. Its dozens of thick green root tendrils suddenly detach from the dirt, instantly transforming into a flurry of creepy, wiggling little legs. The monstrous plant stands up to its full, towering height, pointing its jagged, toothy maw directly at the completely unsuspecting Tyrannosaurus Rex. Moving with terrifying, scuttling speed, the plant uses its root legs to creep silently up right behind the sitting dinosaur. Having just stood up, Grog sees the creeping horror approaching, his eyes bugging out of his head as he points frantically and screams a silent warning. Confused by Grog's wild gesturing, Rexy slowly and casually turns his giant head to look behind him. The giant flower lunges forward with incredible speed, snapping its massive jaws directly down onto Rexy's thick tail. But the flower made a massive tactical error because Rexy's tail is entirely encased in solid metallic silver armor. The flower's bite connects with a deafening metallic crunch that echoes across the barren red canyon. Several of the plant's sharp white teeth shatter instantly upon impact, exploding into tiny plastic fragments that fly high into the air. Even though the teeth didn't pierce the armor, the sheer, crushing pressure of the bite sends a shockwave of imaginary pain straight up Rexy's spine. Rexy's eyes bulge completely out of his head in cartoonish shock, his massive jaws opening incredibly wide as he lets out a silent, galaxy-shattering shriek of terror. In a state of pure, unadulterated panic, Rexy completely forgets about the heavy gravity and takes off running for his absolute life. The chase is on, turning the desolate alien landscape into a chaotic, high-speed comedy of errors. Pounding the red dirt with his massive feet, Rexy runs faster than he ever has, desperate to shake the terrifying botanical nightmare attached to his behind. But the stubborn brick plant refuses to let go of the silver tail, holding on with the sheer, angry willpower of a slighted predator. So Rexy just keeps sprinting blindly forward, violently dragging the incredibly persistent flower right along behind him. Not wanting to just be dragged, the plant's dozens of little root legs scramble frantically against the dirt, trying to keep pace with the massive, sprinting dinosaur. The frantic chase quickly devolves into a ridiculous circle, with Rexy blindly running laps around a massive, towering pillar of dark red stone. It's an absolutely absurd sight. A giant red dinosaur sprinting for his life, while a giant purple flower running on its roots chases him from directly behind, locked in an endless, looping marathon. Standing right in the center of the chaotic circle, Grog holds his crowbar helplessly, spinning around and around to watch them until he makes himself completely dizzy. Rexy and the plant are moving so incredibly fast that they blur into a single, swirling tornado of red, green, and purple, kicking up a massive, blinding dust storm. Grog raises a hand, trying to step in and stop the madness, but quickly pulls it back, slapping his forehead in total exasperation at the sheer absurdity of the situation. The endless, high-speed spinning finally starts to take its toll on the terrifying alien plant.
Running on tiny roots is exhausting, and the flower's invisible eyes begin to swirl into hypnotic, dizzying spirals as the world spins wildly out of control. Utterly overwhelmed by the extreme motion sickness, the giant flower opens its jaws wide in a desperate attempt to catch its breath.
The metallic silver tail slips effortlessly out of its grip, instantly breaking the connection between predator and prey. Without the heavy weight of the plant anchoring him backward, Rexy is violently thrown forward by his own momentum, face-planting spectacularly into a giant dune of red sand. Meanwhile, the heavily nauseous plant completely loses its balance, stumbling sideways like a drunken sailor while using its large green leaves to helplessly fan its dizzy head. Defeated by extreme vertigo, the flower collapses heavily to the ground, its petals drooping lazily as its root legs automatically retract back into the soil with a soft thud. The plant lies completely flattened and exhausted in the dirt, a single broken white tooth resting beside it, officially retiring from the dinosaur hunting business forever. Grog rushes over to the massive red sand dune, gently helping his giant, thoroughly traumatized friend back to his feet. Rexy shakes his massive head, sending a shower of red dust flying from his glass dome as he takes a moment to catch his breath. He nervously glances over his shoulder, letting out a massive sigh of relief when he sees his shiny, metallic silver tail is still perfectly intact, save for a little bit of purple plant slobber. Overcome with gratitude for his impenetrable armor, Rexy twists around and plants a massive, dramatic kiss right on the tip of his own silver tail. Glaring back at the passed-out flower in the distance, Rexy violently shudders, rubbing his tiny hands together as he silently swears to stick to a strict, non-glowing diet from now on. Grog casually picks up his magnifying glass, smiling warmly as he writes a new entry in his imaginary notebook, having just discovered the galaxy's most hilariously stubborn flora. The two best friends throw their arms around each other's shoulders and resume their trek, walking with an extra layer of caution through the bizarre alien vegetation. The harsh, desolate landscape of the dark red planet suddenly feels a lot more alive, proving that even the plants here have a ridiculous sense of humor. The camera slowly pulls back, leaving the dizzy, exhausted flower completely flattened against the red dirt, occasionally hiccuping and making its purple petals twitch. The words "End of episode 73" slowly assemble themselves on the screen, formed entirely out of jagged, broken white plastic teeth. The letters slowly drift apart, and the magnificent alien landscape gracefully and peacefully fades into total blackness. Suddenly, in the bottom left corner of the pitch-black screen for exactly one frame, a jagged green root violently whips across the void, aggressively dragging a terrified Zippy the ant along the ground as he desperately clutches his bright red like and subscribe sign, letting out a fading, high-pitched squeak before the screen snaps permanently to black.